What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the New York Sports Take, episode nombre S34, solo pod, just coming on the feed all by myself today to break down game one of the Eastern Conference Finals. The Knicks getting one of the most improbable victories that you'll ever see as not just a Knicks fan, but a basketball observer. The second greatest comeback in NBA postseason history. What a showing from the Knicks. And I know that we are just hours now outside of game two, beginning at 8 p.m. tonight. I'm recording this at around 3:45-ish. So we're a little bit more than 4 hours away from tip-off of a new game. So more to talk about and everything. But I couldn't just let game two pass us by without turning on the microphone and just chatting a little bit about game one and what we witnessed as Knicks fans, and just really an all-time night. A night that if you're a diehard Knicks fan, if you've watched through the futility and the failed seasons and the 50-plus loss seasons, that was truly magnificent. It'll mean something to you, and it'll be a game that you probably carry with you for the rest of your Knicks fandom. So want to break it down a little bit. Also, get a little bit into game two. So hopefully we have some folks that have the opportunity to listen to this before tip-off of game two. But let's just talk about what we witnessed on Tuesday night from Madison Square Garden. Let's talk about the fact that with about 7.5 minutes left to go in game one, with the New York Knicks down 22 points, nobody in that building off of 7th Avenue and 33rd left on the 5th floor. Everybody stayed in their seats, which was remarkable. I mean, obviously some people leave, but 95% of the people stay in that building, and they witness the craziest game ever played at the world's most famous arena. Let's be honest about it. It was the biggest playoff comeback in Knicks playoff history. I already said to start this, it was the second biggest playoff. The first, by the way, was like a game between the Grizzlies and the Clippers in 2012. But this was something else. Final score, another game that the Knicks actually end up winning by double digits. They won 115-104. So over the course of this 8-game playoff win streak, they've won every game by 10 or more points. They do it again here. But with 7.5 minutes left to go in this game, and a cutting James Harden that gets to the hoop off Karl Anthony Towns, who commits his third or fourth foul of the night, whatever it was, and he makes one of those free throws, makes it a 22-point game. This was over. Nothing in the history of basketball would ever tell you that the Knicks had any shot to somehow pull this off. And from that point through the next 12.5 minutes, a little bit over a quarter, including the rest of the fourth and overtime, the Knicks did something that we've never seen. And they pulled this off, 115-104. Absolutely remarkable. And it was maybe the most abysmal 3.5 quarters that we've seen from the Knicks in the early part, all the way through up until that point, that line of demarcation where both teams struggled out of the gate shooting-wise. Knicks actually were winning by 11 at one point pretty early on in this one. Then they get outscored by 21 in the second and third quarters. That's how they dug themselves that 22-point hole. And then from Harden at the free throw line, 7.5 minute mark, all the way through, the Knicks close it out on a 44-11 run. They outscored the Cavaliers by 30-8 in the fourth quarter, and it took serendipity, it took luck, it took Landry Shamet, it took Mikal Bridges, and it took this guy right here. Obviously, the Knicks have no chance of getting this done without the captain, without the clutch player of the year, Jalen Brunson. And we're going to get into all of it. I want to talk about the Landry Shamet shot, but let me just say off the top here that there have been great criticisms in the Tibbs administration and the Mike Brown administration about Brunson ball when it gets too heliocentric around JB and when everything revolves around him, things that the Knicks offense can be stagnant, it can be stymied, it's not good. And we've seen the changes to the Knicks offense that have been prosperous for them with Cat as the at the elbows, point forward, the point forward. We've seen how effective that's been, and that's been the story for particularly the Knicks offense over this 8-game stretch. But when the time is right, every Knicks fan should be willing to accept that Jalen Brunson, when need be, can take over a basketball game. And if you didn't believe that before, after you watched this game a couple nights ago, you ought to freaking believe it. This dude put the team on his back. He had 15 points in the fourth quarter, finished with 38 points. So he only hit 1 3, didn't really have any threes to do it because he put James Harden in the air fryer and he crisped him down the stretch. He embarrassed him. He made the beard look decrepit. It was sensational to watch, and every Knicks fan should be willing to accept that when the Knicks find themselves in these situations, there is one guy that can pick everybody up, can put the whole team on his back, even at that small frame that he has, and say, I got us. And Jalen Brunson did that. Because the point forward attack for the Knicks was not there all night. Evan Mobley and Jared Allen did an outstanding job. The Knicks, from the jump, you could see the strategy remained the same in the beginning of the game, in the first quarter, a little bit in the second. They tried to have Cat at the high post, at the elbow, distributing like we've seen. But those two big men were not going to have any part of it. Those long arms, those athleticism. And quite frankly, that's going to be a challenge going forward in the series. And we'll talk about game 2. And it'll be interesting to see what the Knicks' game plan is out of the gate in game 2, considering that didn't work at any point in time in this game. But you always have Brunson ball. It's always there. And it frustrates me too. When it's excessive and it's not working and you're wasting too much of the shot clock, it is draining to watch as a New York Knicks fan. But understand that sometimes it needs to be done. Sometimes we need our point guard to just flip on the switch and do it all himself. And that's what happened down the stretch of this basketball game. So I talk about Cat. Cat was not great in this game. 40 minutes, 13 points. We want to see him get going in game 2. But over the court, what really happened over the last 7.5 minutes of this game, other than Jalen Brunson going 7 of 9 from the field and his miraculous footwork? Like I said, Knicks, they were 5 of 7 from 3, but not much of that was Jalen Brunson draining threes. So what happened other than Jalen Brunson's brilliance? Well, two other guys stepped up big time. And that would be Mikal Bridges, who in that 30-8 run down the stretch of the fourth quarter hit 2 huge threes. We all know the one where he gets the offensive rebound, goes back out to the corner himself, and with a hand in his face, very low percentage, improbable look, he drains it. He puts it in, hit another big 3. So Bridges was awesome. And they don't win this game without those shots. But also, he was the only guy that was playing halfway decent throughout the better part of this game. 3.5 quarters, the Knicks played awful. They didn't have anything going for them. Jalen Brunson was okay. OG Anunoby looked, whether it be the hamstring, whether it just be all those days off, even with the injury, OG Anunoby was awful. We're going to talk about overtime where it was a different story for him. But in this game, OG had nothing going for him. Air balls left and right. He had one from the top of the key that he just completely airballed. I even think Bridges, who was good, airballed. But Bridges was the only guy that was okay for the first 3.5 quarters of this game. And then those 2 shots he hits. Awesome. But we got to talk about another guy. We got to talk about a guy who barely made this roster at the start of the season. A guy who was on a minimum deal as an unrestricted free agent. But a guy who Mike Brown, the New York Knicks head coach, has believed in. From the moment he was hired and he walked into this building, he liked this guy. He chose to put this guy on the roster when throughout most of the offseason and into the preseason looked like he wasn't going to make the team. And quite frankly, if Mikael Brogdon doesn't suddenly retire just before the start of this season, a guy who probably doesn't make this team. A born and bred New Yorker. Number 44, Landry frickin' Shamet. Yeah, I read a great piece in the New York Post earlier today before coming on to the pod from Stefan Bondi. And he was writing about a couple of great Knick moments over the past couple of years in the postseason. One of which being the ceiling shot from Jalen Brunson in Game 6 of the Detroit series, where he has that crossover and then hits that step-back three. And the great defensive plays from Mikal Bridges in the Eastern Conference semis last year. And he had a John Starks one too. John Starks dunking on Michael Jordan, I think, in 1999. So signature moments. You call the Brunson play the crossover. The Starks play the dunk. The Bridges play whatever. Knick fans will be referencing Landry Shamet's three-pointer with 45 seconds to go in regulation to tie this game at 99 as the bounce. That was one of the most serendipitous, as the word that Bondi used, fortuitous. I mean, Walt Clyde could come up with a million different ways of saying lucky shots to ever fall through the cylinder. But all that matters is that it did, and that Landry Shamet tied this basketball game. And if that doesn't go in, the Cavaliers are walking out of MSG up 1-0 in this series. I mean, you talk about guts. You talk about guts from a guy in Mike Brown who down the stretch of this game said, Josh Hart doesn't have it. Landry's playing well. He's picking us up defensively. He's going to play the rest of the way here. And that shot, by the way, you talk about serendipity. How often do you see a shot that I think when you break it down, it hit the back of the back iron first, then it goes off the backboard, then it goes off the front of the iron, and then it drops in? Talk about hitting a lottery ticket of a three-point shot. That was unlike anything I've ever seen. And Mike Brown, funny enough, in his presser yesterday, said he had unwavering confidence that ball was going to go in. He just said something told him that was going to drop. Well, I'll tell you what, the 18,000 people inside of Madison Square Garden did not think that was going to drop, including I don't even know. I was just so caught. I felt like everything was going in at that point in time throughout that 44-11 run. Felt like the Knicks couldn't miss, so I probably felt it was going to drop in that moment, but I was kind of just so enamored with what I was watching. But I see the video clip that was attached to the article today of Shamet hitting that shot. And when it first hits the back iron, you hear all of MSG, all of the packed house that was still there, that sat through it when we were down by 22. Oh, like the air sucked out of them. Oh my gosh, we wanted to explode this off the back iron. Then you see it takes its little hiatus off the backboard to the front iron, and the place is silent because now there's new life on this basketball. There's a chance that it drops in, and then it drops through, and MSG absolutely explodes, as it always does during big playoff moments. And how big of a shot from Landry frickin' Shamet, dude, who all Knick fans love. Don't know a guy who doesn't love him. Professional as hell. Feels like he's been around the league a million years. Read today he's only 29. I would have thought he was like a 38-year-old veteran, whatever. I guess he hasn't been on that many teams, but it felt like he was with Philly for a while there. Guess not, though. Born and bred New Yorker. What an awesome game to watch. I already spoke about Brunson. And by the way, let's roll over here. So we all know what happened. I don't have to sit here and go over every single play down the stretch. But then following the Shamet three, Cavs go back on the other end. They retake the lead, right? James Harden gets to the rim, puts it in, and Jalen Brunson once again responds with the man who just scored the last basket guarding him in James Harden, who couldn't stop a brick wall down the stretch of that game. He was terrible defensively. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Jalen Brunson gets to his spot, pulls up, hits a little floater, ties the game, and Jackson Merrill at the buzzer with a chance to win it for Cleveland and get out of here, dodge a bullet, somehow walk away with a win after blowing an enormous fourth quarter lead, puts one halfway down, and it bounces off and does not go in. Sam Merrill, not Jackson Merrill. Sam Merrill. So much so, almost in, that Mike Breen was ready to whip out that bang. It was halfway out of his vocal cords. Bow! If you haven't seen that, you got to go check it out. See it on social media, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. That was insane. For that ball to somehow not go in. And look, man, the ball's got to bounce your way sometimes. Whatever you want to say about this game. The Knicks got fortunate. They didn't get lucky. Whatever. The Knicks got fortunate. They got lucky. Landry Shamit's three-pointer to tie this game took a bounce every which way it could before it actually ended up going in. Sam Merrill's three-point shot should have been in. It was a perfect shot. It was like a perfect in MLB The Show. You hit it right off the screws, and it's right at the shortstop. Sam Merrill hit that shot. It's halfway down, and for whatever reason, the Madison Square Garden hoop spits it right out. That's what happens. So the Knicks got lucky to get this game to overtime. As great as Jalen Brunson was, as much as the Cavs mishandled this thing down the stretch, Knicks still got fortunate. And then in overtime, there was no fortune necessary. Knicks exerted their dominance. OG Anunoby woke up. Like I already said, wasn't just a non-factor throughout most of this game, but was bad. Did not play good basketball. And he comes in. He's got the vast majority of the points for the Knicks in that fourth quarter. I think he had like 9 of the 15 points for them. Hits a couple of big shots. Landry Shamet rattles in another 3. He hit a 3 to extend the Knicks lead to 9 points with about a minute 45 to go. Not about, a minute 45 to go. And the Knicks breezed. They end up winning this game by 11 points. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. They left no doubt. Once this game got to overtime, the Knicks were winning this thing. Cavs were completely dejected. And that was it. Cavs offense did nothing, too. I think they had three points in overtime. So they did themselves no favors down the stretch, blowing this in the fourth, and then their offense was terrible. Donovan Mitchell and James Harden completely put on a disappearing act. Harden wasn't great throughout most of this game, but boy, oh boy. During that stretch, after he was sent by Karl Anthony Towns to the free throw line with 7.5 minutes through the remainder of this game, he was involved. He was active. He had the ball in his hands, and he was bad offensively, but he was even worse defensively, letting Jalen Brunson do absolutely whatever he wanted against him. Turnovers were also an issue for Cleveland, as they have been all postseason long. They averaged just about 17 turnovers in the postseason. 10 games in the playoffs, they're 3-7 when they've allowed more points off turnovers. And they've allowed more turnovers than any team in the playoffs. For Game 7 against Detroit, one of the things that helped them blow out Detroit by 30 points. They didn't turn the ball over as much. Last night they did. And the fatigue was definitely present for Cleveland across the board. And you could talk about the woeful shooting percentages from Harden and Mitchell down the stretch, but Cavs have played 149 more minutes than any team left in the playoff bracket, in the Final Four here. You could thank 2 7-game series for that. So while rust, which, look, 20 minutes into this monologue, still haven't mentioned the rust. I mean, that's really what was probably plaguing the Knicks for the first 3.5 quarters here. How about exhaustion catching up to Cleveland? They were just heaving threes. James Harden was just heaving threes. They could not wait for the buzzer to sound down the stretch in the fourth quarter of that game. They couldn't wait. And unfortunately, the Knicks team just went full steam ahead. As Robert Saleh would say, they were all gas, no brakes. And Cleveland, exhaustion caught up. And no rest for the weary, because just like the Philly series, where game one, Knicks absolutely blow Philadelphia out of the water, and they end up doing so throughout that whole series. Nick Nurse and all the Sixers players making excuses about how, quick turnaround, just had game 7 2 nights ago against Boston, don't have our fresh legs under us. Well, guess what, Philly? You're not going to have fresh legs going forward because it's every other day. No extra rest days. Same thing goes for this series. So Cleveland basketball has been playing so much more than the Knicks. Nothing changes. They don't get any extra rest days here. It's every other day all the way through till we get to the NBA Finals. What a freaking win. And by the way, you talk about the choke job that Donovan Mitchell and James Harden have down the stretch there. They were combined 2 for 13 from the field in the fourth quarter and overtime. Donovan Mitchell, 26 points after 3 quarters, just 3 in the fourth in overtime. That's the thing, too, is that James Harden, it's not like he put forth a disappearing act. He was all over the screen for this Cleveland choke job. Like I said, both sides of the ball. But Donovan Mitchell, on the other hand, was nowhere to be found. Wasn't getting enough shot attempts. James Harden said, I have the most playoff experience. I'm just going to take matters into my own hands. Well, how'd that go for you? Not so great. Wouldn't be so thrilled to be a Cleveland Cavaliers fan today. As a UD student, a lot of Cleveland folks have reached out to me. Disappointed, dejected, still not over it. Well, you better hope you steal one tonight at MSG. So we go back to your place. We go back to Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse up 2-0. Pack it up, pack it in. Let me begin.